get started. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Sandy Gabe. I have a couple of hats. So I'm the president-elect for AAUW California. I'm also the webmaster, and I'm part of the communications committee. And I'm joining Dawn tonight, who is going to be the primary lead for our topic Beyond the Newsletter. And I'm going to turn it over to Dawn at this point in time. Take it away, Dawn.
Okay, thanks very much, everyone. You have decided to attend this workshop on Beyond the Newsletter, presenting branch events to members and the public. If you thought you were signing up for something on how to cook barbecue because we were just talking about that, unfortunately, you're wrong. I'm Dawn Johnson. I also wear several hats at the state level. Right now, I'm the governance chair. I'm pretty active in the communications committee. Sandy and I work a lot together on state communication efforts, and we also happen to be in the same branch. And I also know what kind of wine she drinks, so we're pretty good friends. So let's go ahead on to the first slide and get going. We have a lot to talk about tonight. So I want to start off by saying that this is important. I want to start off with a disclaimer. This webinar is obviously about publicity and how to publicize your branch events to your fellow members as well as to the public. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. But I want to start off by kind of letting you know that even though this is about publicity, we are not promoting or condoning or encouraging or any other thesaurus word the going back to totally in-person events. But we are suggesting that you follow the latest AAUW guidance, which came out from our state recently, that you try to continue online as much as possible, and that you follow your county guidelines for in-person if you have to. But we also know that this particular webinar has been postponed twice. And it has, we were kind of afraid that Sandy and I might have short-term memory loss and we'll forget what we have to say. We also know you still have branch business to communicate, and hopefully at some point you will have in-person meetings and events again. So this will just give you a head start on these publicity tools, because if you're like me and you need probably 8 months to learn how to use Instagram, we're just going to give you a little bit of a head start with that. So let's go on to the next slide, Sandy. Are you there, Sandy?
I am there, and
Yeah.
Don't tell me it's not progressing again.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay. Why not? So this may sound familiar to some of you. What? Our branch had a program, speaker, meeting, event, party last week. I didn't know about it. Nobody told me. You may be familiar with this, and your response is probably, didn't you see the newsletter, read the emails? Have you left your house in the last 4 years? How could you not know about this? So that's what we're talking about tonight. How do we get them to know about this? Slide, please. So the first thing to talk about is the rule of 7. This is the rule of 7. We're having a program on diversity tomorrow night. We're having a program on diversity tomorrow night. We're having a program on diversity tomorrow night. We're having a program on diversity tomorrow night, etc. 7 times. You must repeat information to people 7 times for them to absorb it. And not only that, but you have to repeat it in different ways, because we all learn differently and we all receive information differently. So some get it by reading the newsletter. Those are the ones we love, aren't they? Some have to have a phone call. Some of them will open your email and read it. Some of them need smoke signals. Some of them are still using telegraphs. But they have to all be approached in a different way, because we all receive information differently and we have different access to information. So if you're relying on only a few channels to send that information, you're just not reaching everybody. Slide, please. Now, if you didn't take a lot of advanced marketing courses, you would not necessarily know about the rule of 7, but you probably called it the mud on the wall theory. And that's what this is, in effect. This is the mud on the wall theory, which is the idea that you just keep throwing wet mud on a wall until some of it sticks, and you hope that more of it sticks than not. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, too, is mud. Slide, please. So what mud can you throw? What publicity tools can you use to get your members, to make your members aware and the public aware of the important events and programs and things that your branch is doing? So we're going to break this tonight into kind of 3 sections. First will be the tried and true methods that most of us use: newsletters, emails, press releases, and maybe some new ways to use some of these old things. Secondly, we're going to put in a whole bucket of its own, the world of social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. And third, we're going to look at the brave new world. And we're going to talk about a few ways that you might promote branch events that you might not have thought of. Okay, so let's hope that you're pretty muddy and dirty by the end of this night. That's our plan. Slide, please. So we know it's evening and we know it's late and dark and it's kind of cold outside, at least where I live. And, we know that you're probably having a glass of wine right now and we can't see you. But just because your video is off doesn't mean that we don't know. So I assume that you're settled in for a lovely evening. And to help keep you awake, we want you to sort of play a little game with us that will give you maybe a good picture of the level of publicity activity that your branch is currently doing. Let's pretend it's not a COVID year, but is currently doing. So we're going to ask you to play mud on the wall with us and to keep track. So grab a pencil and paper. I'm sure that you recall what those things are, and give yourselves a point for every time that we mention a publicity tool that your branch has used. So we're going to be talking about many, many, many tools. So every time you hear one that you've done, give yourself a little check mark. And we'll take a look at the end because, yes, it's a competition. And we are very well aware of how AAUW women and men love competition. So do be keeping track of your mud on the wall tally sheet as we go through. Okay, next slide, please. So this will be part 1, and here we're going to be talking about the tried and true methods that you've been using for a long time, that your branch has been using in a long time. Being tried and true doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means they're ones that we are very familiar with. And we're just going to review maybe some extra tips on some of those. So slide, please. So the first tried and true publicity method that probably most of you use is your newsletter. I'm fairly confident that you have one. And that means right off the bat, you can give yourself your first point. See how easy this is going to be? Yeah, we'll see. So you have your newsletter. The question is, of course, does everyone read it? Because probably the open rate on your newsletter is less than 25%. In fact, 25% would be good. So if it's less than 25% or it's around that, that means that 1 out of 4 people are not reading that incredible president's message that you spent all that time writing the night before. So that's why a lot of your people don't know what's going on, because they're not reading your signature publicity promotion tool of your newsletter. So, well, what can you do about it? Well, heavens, don't stop doing it. We're going to keep doing your newsletter. But you might want to look at a couple of little tips on it. So first is to be sure you have good content. And what we are suggesting is that you go look at other branches' newsletters, because it may prompt you to have some kind of a cool activity in your newsletter, like maybe you have a little hidden Easter egg of some trick phrase in your newsletter, and you call out everybody who found it in the next issue. Or maybe you get some ideas for features that you should be running every month in your newsletter that other branches have thought of that you haven't thought of. So if you want to go look at everybody else's newsletters and like get some great ideas from them, as you can see there on the slide, you just send a request to our web team, and there's the email address, and ask to be placed into the group that can view everyone else's newsletters that are submitted. So that's great. Secondly, you want to think above the fold in your newsletter. If you're an old timer and you had used to get a newspaper, or you saw newspapers and newspaper racks for sale, you know, the paper ones, the one that were on paper that had ink that got all over your fingers, they were always folded in half, and the top headline was always supposed to be the most important and critical information that would capture the attention of someone who was walking by on the street and stopped to buy it out of the newsstand. So that phrase has become known as above the fold, which means prioritize content that's need to know and very important right up front on the first page of your newsletter. Don't waste that time with flowery conversations about, you know, what a wonderful fluffy year this has been. Use that time to push out events you want people to come to, important information they need to know. And make sure that you have your calendar on your first page, because a lot of people are not going to read the 26 pages that many of our newsletters are. So give them the important stuff first. Use a lot of bold colors and fonts. Use pictures, designs, artworks, and things, and try to tell a story with your newsletter. It just helps with kind of known tips for helping with people with readership. The other thing you can do is expand your reach. So if your members aren't reading it, maybe somebody else will and come to your event that you're talking about in your newsletter. So you can send your newsletters to other branches, and there may be people who will carpool up to come to your incredible home tour. I, in fact, have done that. We have assembled carpools because we saw in another newsletter they were going to have a really cool home tour of way nicer houses than we have, so we wanted to go see them. So you can you always want to make sure that your newsletter editor is sending your newsletter into the state at that email address there, and then everyone else will see yours just like you're going to see theirs. Secondly, if you have some event or something that's very significant, you might be able to get it posted on the AAUW state website, our California website. So if you think it's very worthy and it might have broad appeal, then you can submit it to that address shown there on that second bullet. So that's something to think about too, to give your newsletters a little bit more reach. Slide, please. So here's a couple of examples of newsletters, and if yours is one of the three represented, well, yay for you. So you can see here, there's lots of color. There's a lot of boxes that draw attention to critical information. The key information and calendar are right up front. And yeah, you know, they're a little bit busy. I agree, they're a little bit busy, but they're engaging and friendly, and that's worth something too. I particularly want you to note the middle one, the grapevine, because at the bottom of the page, they have pictures of food. This is a highly, highly sophisticated marketing device in which you put a picture of food and people will come. I, for one, would look at that and say, where can I get that cupcake? And I would sign up for that event. So clever marketing. Slide, please. So those are the, you know, tried and true. Newsletters are certainly tried and true. And here's another tool that we use a lot that's also tried and true, and those are emails. We use them, we send them, we love them, and they work for the most part. Very well known, very loved. They reach everybody, but does everybody open them? No. That's kind of the problem sometimes, isn't it? But they are easy to do, so it's a great tool. You definitely want to keep using your emails, sending them out to your members judiciously. There are several ways that you can be sending them. Some people send them from a personal email account. So your members get an email from Poppy and Frank Glockenspiel at gmail.com, or, excuse me, that's my phone ringing, or they will get them. or they'll get them from a mysterious email address like gopherhater@gmail.com. So that's one thing people do. The second is they might send them from a branch email account. So they might send the email from administration@aauwmytown.com. Third, they might be sent using an email tool, a platform, a software platform that you can use, which you're probably familiar with, called MailChimp or Constant Comment. No.
No.
So I would suggest that those three are pretty much good, better, best. The best we want you to be looking at using as an email marketing tool. Next slide, please. So emails have, that's kind of the good, bad, and ugly about emails. The good is, as we said, they're easy to do. Many people do open them. It's a pretty something we're well familiar with. But the good and bad are the email irritants. First of all, that the 25% open rate is typical. Again, 1 out of 4 people. Why aren't they opened? Well, first of all, the sender's address might not be recognizable. I remind you of gopherhater@gmail.com, sending emails. They don't know who that is. What's the response? Delete. Maybe the subject line does not include AAUW. Maybe it just says, it doesn't include AAUW. So it just says something like, see you Sunday. Doesn't say, so the reader has no idea this is an AAUW communication. So what do? Delete. Or maybe the subject line isn't compelling. Maybe your subject line says annual budget report. Boring. And also doesn't say that it's about AAUW. So what do? They delete. The other irritant is that your personal or your branch emails often go into a black hole. If you send them from Frank and Poppy or you send them from Gopher Hater, you have no idea if they got it. You have no idea if they read it. You have no idea if they acted on anything or clicked on anything. You also can't target your audience. So you can't just send emails to a special group of just members of a certain project group or so on, because you have this large master list and you're sending it out from that all the time. The other problem is that people use reply all. You'll send out an email from your personal email or your branch email to everybody, and people will reply all, and we all get to hear who or who is not bringing lemon cookies to the event. This is irritating. And the other thing is, if you're trying to do all of this, managing it yourself with your own personal emails, you have to keep your mailing address up to date. Someone comes, someone goes, someone gets a new email. You have to be on top of that and keeping your lists up to date. So there are tools that can help, and that's what we are certainly suggesting you use. Slide, please. So the tried and true, a better way for emails is to use one of these platforms that we mentioned, MailChimp, MailerLite, and Constant Contact. I always say Constant Comment, which I know is a type of tea. MailChimp, MailerLite, or Constant Contact are the ones that are most commonly used. And what's good about them is the cost is minimal or free. And you can use these to not only send all of these emails, but also even to create the newsletter in it, or just use them and to actually send the email, and you can attach your externally created newsletter to that. The advantages is that these platforms have engaging designs. They track who opened the email, who clicked through, who unsubscribed, whose email is no good anymore and bounced back. You can see all of that stuff after you've completed your mailing. You can send reminders to those who didn't open it. Yeah, you weren't able to do that before, were you? You can automate members who want to opt out. Of course, no one would, but if they did, you could automate that process so they didn't have to send you an email that said, I don't want to get your crummy emails anymore. And you can segment your list, so you can set up targeted groups, group that you want just to send emails to a Tech Trek group, or just send emails to a your people in interest groups and so on. So that's a big advantage that you can do there. Slide, please. So regardless of whether you use a, an email that comes out of your administration, or whether it comes out of your personal email, you're managing it yourself, or whether you use MailChimp or Constant Contact or something, there's a couple of tips that we wanted to mention to you about emails that might help your open rate. First of all, take a look at this. I mean, which email would you open? AAUW April program announcement. Or do you have your home tour tickets? Likely the second one is a little bit more compelling. Of course, I have to say that, we kind of tricked you in that one. I don't know if any of you caught it, but and secondly, our second example doesn't actually say AAUW in it, which violates one of the rules I just told you. So it should say, do you have your AAUW home tour tickets? So they'd know what it's about. But it does draw you in a little bit. It's a lot more interesting, like, oh, wait, I don't. I better open this email. Next, please. Another thing is to try to make the content look engaging and digestible. So if your content, if your letter to your email to your members looks like the stuff on the left, blah, 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 your open rate will probably drop to 1% because it's just not engaging. So with a few twists, you can look a little bit like the one on the right, with maybe some graphics, dividing into paragraphs, adding color, changing the font size, putting your logo on, and that kind of thing just makes it more inviting to read. Next, please. The other thing you can do with your emails, particularly when you're using these to send your newsletter, is to put a little teaser or call to action in the front to kind of give people the idea that it's going to really be cool to go and read this thing. So just put 2 or 3 bullets, like, what are you going to find if you click through and read this attached new email newsletter? What are you going to find in there? Some cool stuff. So little things that say, read me, read me, read me. My branch's last newsletter, the little teasers on the front said the following. 1, what plants did Mariposa gophers vote for as their favorites to eat? The second one was, what on earth is a robotic hat? And the third one was, how many new members do we have? So those are all 3 things I kind of want to read about. And so that gives me a little bit of an incentive to read on a little bit more. Next slide, please. So if you want to know a little bit more about how to use these email platforms that we're recommending, we have some outstanding resources right on our California website. Thanks mainly in part to a couple of people on the communications team, Sandy, and I think also Randa was responsible for some of these materials. So one of them is comparing the 3 different emails, the first one, and tells you a little bit about why you might want to use one over the other and sort of get away from using your homegrown email stuff. The second is, how do you create a newsletter in MailChimp? We're going to show you that in just a moment. The third one is, how do you set up an account and send emails with MailChimp? Because you do have to spend a couple of minutes to get your account set up and get your email addresses imported into it. And you might think, yikes, I don't even know how to get started with it. And if you look at that link there, you'll see a page-by-page instructions for how to do that, that actually also has pictures and screen prints with red arrows and boxes and fill this in here and all the kinds of things that people like me need. And then the last one we'll send you to is a YouTube video, which is a demonstration of someone actually creating a newsletter in MailChimp and just working along with her as she walks through. I think I'll pick this color. I think I'm going to put a box around this. Here's how I do it. And it's like you sort of feel like, maybe I could do this. But we're just going to show you one. Sandy's going to click over and show us one, the second one, which is just to give you a look at how easy these are to use. You'll see that then this is right there on our website on that resource, which when you download this slideshow, you'll be able to access those links. You can see that this goes through and tells you exactly what to do first and second and third, and you have a grinning chimpanzee on every page. What could be, how else would you want to spend your time? And it shows you exactly with, screenshots of what it looks like so that you can get yourself set up and do this. Very cool. We thank Rand. This, I believe this one was created by Randa Blanding, one of our communications members. Okay, so we're talking about, again, still the tried and true. We're looking at newsletters a little bit there. We were looking at emails a little bit there and how to improve those. And another tried and true publicity tool that probably many of you have used are the press releases. And I think it's important to know that they're not dead. I mean, newspapers are not dead, and especially if you have a nice local newspaper. And by the way, I should back up, I guess, because I did forget to mention this. If you have used if you send emails to your members, you get to give yourself a point for your mud on the wall game. And if you have used any of those platforms that we talked about, you get to give yourself another point. And if you have looked at any other branch newsletters for examples, you can give yourself another point because we are generous in the mud on the wall game. So press releases, we have, pardon me, let me catch up with where I am. So a lot of you probably have certainly community newspapers and newspapers in their area, and they may be on paper and they may be online, but in any case, you want to keep pelting them with press releases, because if it is a slow day, you might get in, you might get a spot. So why not? Why not just keep throwing that mud on the wall there too? So in writing a press release, if you just look over there on overall, I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is what flies in your paper. You know your paper well. It's a very small, localized community newspaper. They're going to be looking for stories that will relate somehow to the community, maybe to specific people in the community, or explaining how your event or your organization addresses community needs. Do they like articles with lots of pictures? Do they like articles that are more informal and casual? So, get the vibe of your paper and try to fit your article around that. Secondly, use short sentences. Goodness, this is not the place for outstanding parallel construction and endless prepositional phrases. Ditch all your commas pretty much, and the use of and all the time. And comma, and comma, and comma, and then and comma, and. We're going to have short and sweet, short and choppy. Journalism is meant to be very lean. No flowery language. We can sort of, no need to go to the thesaurus, shall we say. Keep it simple. Don't use I, we, you, us. And we see that a lot in the press releases that come through. They'll say, we are going to be having this event at our favorite site, and come and meet us at our fundraising turtle race that we'll be having. So we need to be a little more formal than that. Refer to yourself as the organization or as AAUW Mariposa or whatever your branch is, or say the members, but don't use the pronouns. Be careful about jargon. No jargon. You can't not write about Tech Trek without explaining what it is. Not everyone is conversant with the world of AAUW talk that we all are. So be careful not to use jargon that's not familiar to an average reader. And certainly include photos, as many as you can, usually, and do give the newspaper permission to use them at will, or as many or as many as they want, as few or as many as they want. Be sure you're following the caption rules for minors. In our case, we will show pictures of minors, but not identify them by name in the captions. So then generally too, in the first paragraph, you don't want to waste your first paragraph. Do not waste your first paragraph. This is not the time for a melodramatic preamble. It's not the time to, wax poetic about the importance of working for women's empowerment. So you do want to hook them. You want to give them a reason to read, but don't waste your first few sentences. That first paragraph, you need to nail those 5 W's, and mainly you need to nail why. So why is it important for someone to continue to read your article? Because they have a lot of other things that they could be doing. So they don't always want to be reading that. So make sure they know why you are talking about this event that you are publicizing, why they should come. What does it do? Does it raise money for scholarships? And try to make it as local as you possibly can, and explain, maybe if it's raising money for scholarships, how much money in scholarships have you given? To whom have you given them? How many of these young men and women have gone on to fabulous, exciting opportunities in college thanks to this organization? So try to personalize it and bring it down to the local level, but be sure everyone understands in that first paragraph why you are asking them to come to your event. And then, my goodness, the last bullet there, get them to your event, ask them to come to your event, be sure you put in the call to action. What do they need to do? This has to come in the first paragraph. Do they need to call somebody to get a ticket? Do they need to go online to a certain link and order the ticket? Do they need to pick up the ticket at the grocery store? Do they need to send money to blah, blah, blah? What do they need to do to get to this event that you're publicizing? The rest of the paragraphs, this is where you do the blah, blah, blah. Secondary information, filler stuff, a little more about the event, maybe what kind of food's going to be there, what kind of spectacular things will be happening, maybe a little bit more about the speaker that will be there and that speaker's bio. You go from the most to the least important. And it's always nice to have a warm and fuzzy quote. I don't feel warm and fuzzy enough to give you an example of one right now, but I'm sure that you have one. The final paragraph should always be a boilerplate, and that is something you can use over and over again, just your AAUW story, a little bit about the organization, how many people are in it, what are its mission, what is your mission, what are some of your key programs, and who should someone contact if they want to know more about it, especially if they would like to join it. So that's a little bit about press releases, and if you have written a press release and sent a press release, obviously, you get to give yourself a point. Next slide, please. A couple more words on press releases. It's really helpful to build a list of contacts for your local papers, magazines, or publications that are put out by organizations within your community, such as your Chamber of Commerce or a downtown business association may have their own publications. So find out who the contact people are for those, know their deadlines, keep a list. And I'm going to skip to the 4th bullet. You want to build a publicity, use that too to build a publicity calendar for your branch. So you should start off the year when you're doing your planning. You should plan I hate to say this, a spreadsheet of your promotional plans and what events will be publicized, how and where will they be publicized, who will write the article, what outlets will you contact, who will submit the article, what are the deadlines, and have that all laid out ahead of time and have it done so that you know that 2 weeks, 3 weeks before publication of a certain newspaper, you will know who's going to write it and who you're going to send it to and have it ready to go. And again, I mentioned do give them permission to shorten the article. Do give them permission to use as many photos as you supplied. And if you can't, at least always say at the end, if you can't publish my my article about my event, could you please just give us a calendar listing? Because most of the time they'll do that. And my bottom box, so my proofread, not once, not twice, absolutely 3 times the charm. Your brain reads, sees what it thinks it's supposed to see. So you wrote Marconi when you were writing an essay on the Telegraph, and your brain saw Marconi, but you spelled macaroni because your brain said, I know what this is about, so it must be Marconi, but it wasn't, it was macaroni. So you have to be really careful to not trust your brain. Next, please. So the last part about our first section on tried and true, the tried and true, we talked about using newsletters, we talked about using emails more effectively, we talked about press releases and kind of overall look at press releases, keep them going. So here's a few suggestions for new ways to use what still are tried and true old media, but maybe new ways to use that. First is community radio. If you have a community station, and you probably do, they are always hungry for content. I mean, they have people reading recipes on our radio station sometimes. They want content. So ask them if you can go live and do an interview and pitch the event that you're talking about, as well as your organization and your branch and how incredibly fabulous you are. But you can definitely pitch an event then, say, by the way, let me tell you a little bit about AUW, and guess what's happening next Saturday that you could come to. So they should be very, very open to that. And the very minimum, they would do a PSA, a public service announcement. And public service announcements are short and sweet and just the facts, man, for those of us old school people who know about Dragnet. You can get them to usually do those without any charge on a radio or even on the TV, local TV channels, cable channels will do a PSA for you with no charge. So you contact usually the advertising department of those organizations, and they'll give you they'll explain to you what's involved. The next thing you might think about doing is a local TV station appearance. Our local TV station here, they have a weekly segment where they show puppies that you can adopt. We had one of our community members actually came on that station to propose to his wife. So they're very open to having local community people have a moment on their TV station if they have room. And so you might use that to promote one of your events. Get on and ask if you can have a quick moment. You'll probably have to get out of the clothes that you're typically wearing for Zoom to do that, but it's something to think about. Local movie theaters, they will also often do a PSA for you, or even a fairly affordable paid ad that you can pop on the screen. People can watch in between the popcorn ads and the movie trivia contests that they run. Local magazines, I'm thinking about like the Parents Magazine. They often have a free community calendar that you can put your event in. Something else to think about is a video production. You can do a little video about the event you're promoting, as well as your branch, so you can do that in a very cheap and easy way if you contact your high school video production class, because they're usually looking for a good, meaningful assignment for their students to do. And you can work with a student or two and let them develop a video for you, and then post that on your social media and on your website and get that out to the Chamber of Commerce and so on. And I think that I've actually know a couple of branches that have done that, and they got some pretty good videos out of it. And the last thing is, go ahead, buy an ad. I do not know why we are so afraid of spending money sometimes. Buy an ad. It takes money to make money. It takes money to do publicity. You can buy an ad on Facebook. You can buy an ad on other social medias. You can buy an ad in your newspaper. You can buy an ad on a long online newspaper. Go see what they cost. Don't just immediately kind of reject that idea. So if you've done any of these things that I just mentioned on this screen here, give yourself some love and tick off some more of those little points for yourself. If you've done any of those things, if your branch has done any of those things there, give a little love. Okay, slide, please. So we're going to switch gears a little bit now. We're going to look at part two. So part two, again, we were looking at the tried and true. We're looking at newsletters, emails, press releases, and other kinds of media that you might use that are typically used. And we've separated the using social media for promotion of your branch events and into its own bucket because it's big. And also because I'm not very astute with social media. That's why I have Sandy here. So Sandy's going to take over and talk a little bit about social media as another way to promote events. So we're going to turn it over to her.
Thanks, Dawn. It will also give Dawn a break after having talked for 45 minutes straight. She probably needs a break to go get a drink of water. So thank you, Dawn, for giving me the opportunity to talk with you a little bit about social media. And as this illustrates, there are many different components to social media. I'm going to go over a few of them. You may have paid attention to the Board to Board or our Communications California Connection, that monthly newsletter that comes out, and know that we're focused on membership and marketing this year. So as part of the marketing, we are looking at how to use our social media to our advantage in both marketing ourselves, but also in gaining members. And that's part of what we're talking about this evening, is how do we engage with our community and with our members. So let's talk about a couple of different options. So the typical ones that we think about are Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I know that some of you are probably starting to shake, thinking about having to use all of these different tools. You don't have to use all of them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where you might use them and where they are most helpful. So let's start with the most difficult one first, and that's Twitter. Many branches don't have a Twitter account. And I would say that Twitter is focused more on sharing news types of events than sharing the types of events that we're talking about here tonight. So if you have limited resources, you can just take that one off of your list for right now and stop feeling guilty about the fact you don't have a Twitter account and you don't know how to tweet. Just let that go. But the other two, Instagram and Facebook, are ones that can help your branch get the word out. Instagram is more dedicated to a photographic representation. You know, we hear a picture is worth 1,000 words. Instagram embodies that. So many of our children and grandchildren use this platform, and they a lot of times post food, things that they're doing in the day, and maybe they'll post a couple of pictures and some words, not necessarily a lot of words. So this platform is dedicated mostly to pictures, and the users tend to be younger, although I think that that is moving up in terms of age. So the article that I pulled this from last year said that it was folks tend to be in their teens and 20s. I'm seeing it more in the 30s as well. So I think that that has a little bit broader. So the people that you're trying to reach who might be of a younger audience might respond to Instagram more than Facebook. And Facebook is really focused on, I love how they say this, the popular middle-aged, we are middle-aged in terms of internet users, a group of individuals. And this is probably a group that you have some interaction with already, and you can really expand on this. As Dawn mentioned, you can do advertisements. We're going to talk a little bit about posting events on there, but these are the three tools. The two that I would recommend most in terms of investment is Instagram and Facebook. So let's talk a little bit about Facebook events. I don't know how many people use this, but it's a really great way to get the people that you already know and all of their friends to know about your event. So you can create an event on Facebook. You then can share it or ask your members to share that event. and let their networks do the work for you. So if I post an event on Facebook and all of my friends see that, they can share it with their friends and you really can get the word out. You can also boost your event by purchasing ads, which is not as scary as it sounds. It's actually pretty easy. So I'm going to share with you right now how to create a Facebook event. So the first thing you're going to do, I'm on the California page, and at the top of the page, I have this thing, create an event. So see, create event. So I'm going to create an event. And it asks me what kind of event I want. Do I want an online event or an in-person event? And I'm going to say an online event. And then it asks me whether it's a general event or a class. So it's really trying to narrow you down to the type of event that you are going to have. So I'm going to say a general event. And then I'm going to say that it's free because many of our events are free. It could be a paid event, but let's just go with free for now. And then it brings up this series of dialog boxes for you to fill out. The first thing it does is it puts in your profile picture from your branch Facebook page, but we're going to change that. So I'm going to pop over here just in the service of time, and let's see if we can. So I started one already, and my my topic is going to be finders, keepers, recruiting and retaining members. And this is from our next event. I'm going to fix a couple of things that I copied over from another document. Okay, so you see as I type it in here, it shows up here. And all of my options went away. So this event is on November, I'll have to go look. It's on November 16th. So I can put a date in and I can put a time in. And this event starts at 7 p.m. Come on, go down. It won't let me grab the little bar there. So I'm going to start it at 7 p.m. And I can just leave it there, or I can put in end date and time. So I'm going to put it, 10 o'clock is probably a little late. Let's say that it's going to end at 9. So we've got a 2-hour event. You can also set up a recurring event. And I did that for our fund events. So it has 3 different events and 3 different times because the basic information is the same on all of those. My location, we're going to do this one by Zoom. So I don't have a physical location, but you could put a physical location in and it'll actually put a map in for you. And then I get the opportunity to put in a description. And so I cut and pasted that from my other document. You can see it building over here, right? We've got the title, the date and time, it's public event. I'm going to say next, and I'm going to say there's an external link. And this is going to take me to our California website. So I just put in the California website. So if somebody wants to register for it, they can register by clicking on this link. And then I want to change this picture, which I had changed already. But I'm going to put this picture in. Oops, sorry about that. I don't actually want to do that. I'm going to say upload cover photo, and then I'm going to go to where it is. Put that picture in there, and it's going to replace the picture that we had from our branch or from our California website. And of course, it's going to freeze right now because I'm in the middle of a demo. There we go. And that's actually required as part of doing a demo. And so I'm going to look here and say, okay, I've got the right date, I have the right time, I have a picture that I like, and I have a title. And then I'm going to say publish event. Now, one thing to know about Facebook is sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the event to get published and propagated throughout the network. So I did one the other day and I kept going back and looking for it. And it took about a half an hour before it was actually posted. But it looks like this one is working right now. So one of the other things that you want to do is you want to invite people to your event. And this looks at your personal a list of friends, and you can select them, and it limits you to 500 people. I'm just going to choose a couple of my closest friends like Dawn, and I'm going to send her an invite. And now she's going to get it on her Facebook page. So that's as easy as it is to create a Facebook event. Okay, so let me go back to our branch websites. So one of the things that you need to remember about your branch website is it current? And one of my pet peeves is it's better to not have a website than to have a website that looks like you don't have a website and you don't care. So if your information is 2 years old on your website, you probably should take your website down, or the other way to do it is to make it what's called evergreen. So that is basic information on your website that doesn't change from month to month or year to year, but maybe talks about your branch as a whole. And to make it look fresh, you can do something like embedding a Google Calendar on your website so that that is fresh and that looks current. And then that's all you have to do is to maintain that. You should also include your social media links. So if you have an Instagram account or if you have a Facebook page, go ahead and put those on your branch website. I did get a couple of questions prior to the session about how do you create a branch website. If you don't have your own branch website, AAUW National will host your site and transition what you have or create one for you for free. $0 free. You can maintain it for $0 free as well. So it's very, very economical. They will also, for $119 a year, yes, a year, not a month, a year, will maintain your content for you. You do have to send it to them, but they will make those updates for you. So I want to show you that as well, a couple of ideas about content here. So I'm going to show you a branch website where if you imagine this to be the front page or something like this, these are projects that are done within this branch. And over on the right-hand side, you can see their calendar. So this can stay the same, but this calendar changes because they have a Google Calendar and somebody maintains the Google Calendar, and we post it here. And so you can see that there are several things coming up that people might want to attend. If you click on it, it'll take you to the calendar. The California website has the same thing. If you go up to the top of this menu bar here, you'll see calendar, and also on any internal page, it'll be on the right-hand side. There'll be 6 events there. But I'm just showing you this, and I know you can't read it because I can't read it and I'm sitting right in front of the screen. It's very, very teeny. But if you increase the size on your window, you could see it. And you can see that we have events by different branches. So here's one, Benicia Vallejo has an event coming up. Let's see, Danville, Alamo, Walnut Creek has an event coming up. We have our leadership team meetings. So this is the board meetings. And here's one of the fund events that are coming up on Saturday. So this is a great way to promote events for your branch. You can send them to, guess where, webteam@aauw-ca.org, and we will post those events for you. So think about your branch events or your IBC events, and we can get those on the calendar. You can also brag about your branch accomplishments. So as Dawn mentioned earlier, we have a section on the website called Branch Brag. We're so consistent. We're just so cute, aren't we? So we've got Branch Brag, and you can put your accomplishments there. So you just send that information to webteam@aauw-ca.org. Now I know there are a couple of websites that do not have a Facebook account. And so you can go to this handy link on establishing a Facebook account, and it will walk you through step by step how to create that for your branch. Okay, Dawn, I hope that you've had a chance to have a big, tall glass of water and that you're back and ready to go on to the next section, which is Beyond the Newsletter Part 3. Oh, and if you were paying attention and you have a branch website, if you have a Facebook account, if you have an Instagram account, if you've done an ad on any of those, if you created an event, that's mud on your wall. So go ahead and count those as well.
You stole the words right out of my mouth.
I know.
But I'm happy. I'm happy it was you. Thanks, Sandy. Obviously, this is why Sandy always handles the tech part of it, because she just moves around that thing like a wizard. So really appreciate that. But yes, give yourself points for all of those things that she mentioned. So we're going to move on a little bit more quickly now. We're going to go into part 3. Now, we've talked about the tried and true things. We've talked about social media. Now we want to look at part 3, which is It's a Brave New World. And this is a little bit more about what are some like really sort of new tweaky things that you might not have thought about that you could use to promote your events. Slide, please. So we figure, are there really any new things you can try? Yeah, there are. Otherwise, we wouldn't make you sit here until 8 o'clock tonight. And also, I'd like to point out, you may not be racking up so many points as you were before, because I'm kind of not so sure you've actually used all of these yet. That's why we're telling you about. The first one for our brave new world is robocalls. Yeah, robocalls. I know. I'm sure you never thought of that. And you're saying, oh no. And we're saying, oh yes. So first of all, we like to call them phone bites. And we use an online program software tool called PhoneVite at phonevite.com. See their little logo up on the top right there. So what is great about doing robocalls? Well, it's a new way to reach out. And as we talked about, you need to reach out to everybody in a different way all the time. Send the same message over and over, but in different channels. One of them is that people do sometimes pick up the phone and listen. So it's a new way to reach out. It's an additional way to reach out. It's very inexpensive and easy. I'll tell you the pricing in a moment. You can reach all of your members with one message. So it's all the same for everybody. And this is the best choice for your non-email checking, non-computer loving, non-newspaper reading, still love their landline and need lots of reminders members. This is a good choice for them. Slide, please. I think we have a little video here that's put out by the PhoneVite company about how to actually set up a robocall. I guess, so we run it, Sandy? We're running a little short on time. Wondering if you just might want to skip it.
Sending a phone bite is quick and easy. Sign up or log in to record a message using your phone or computer. You also have the option to upload a recording in MP3 format by clicking the Upload Recording link. Select contacts from the phone book or add them by importing a CSV file, creating a new list from scratch, or simply typing the phone numbers as a quick list. Next, adjust the PhoneVite settings, such as scheduling for later delivery, choosing a different caller ID for the broadcast, sending via email, RSVP, and message back options. After you click Submit and confirm the information and options you selected, the PhoneVite will be ready to go. From the My PhoneVites page, you can check the status of the broadcast, including call details, as well as access the phone book, where you can manage the phone lists. When you are out and about, you can use our convenient To-Go service, which allows you to dial one number to reach a whole group. To set it up, go to the phone book and click on Set Up To-Go Numbers. Here you can enable and obtain a to-go number for up to 10 of your groups. Once a group is set up, you can dial the corresponding to-go number from one of your verified phone numbers. The system will identify you based on the caller ID and know which group you are trying to reach based on the number you dial. After you record the message, press 2 to deliver it to everyone in your group. In addition, you can easily post your recording on Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, and your own website. Simply click on the social media icon under the recording that you want to share and follow the instructions. PhoneVite. Share your voice.
Thanks, Sandy. The feature that they talked about, PhoneVite to Go, where you use your cell phone to do all of that calling, I've actually never used that. It works just fine doing it from your computer or your laptop. It's quite easy. Couple of key features of PhoneVite is that it's very cheap, 5 cents a call. So that's $5 for 100 members. That's a very cheap way to reach people. You pay as you go, so you don't have to set up, and there's no initial upfront costs. It's very easy to upload all of your members' numbers. Even I was able to do it. You record your message on your phone. It's very easy. PhoneVite calls you and you just record your message, and then you hang up, and then you click a couple of buttons and it sets it up. You can schedule it for whenever you want it to go. You can ask for an RSVP. You can let people send a message back. You can track the call results, how many people answered it. It'll leave a message too if they're not at home. And as it said in the video, you can share the call on social media. So you can stick it on your Facebook page, stick it in an email, or put it on your website in case anybody actually missed the call. Slide, please. We're going to let you hear a quick sample of a PhoneVite call. You may recognize somebody's voice.
AAUW members, take a guess. How many elected presidents and prime ministers in the world today are women? Find out tomorrow, that's Thursday, April 25th at 5 o'clock at the Miners Roadhouse. We're going to watch and talk about 50/50, which is not an ice cream bar, but is a clever, fast-moving 20-minute film about the history of women in positions of power. It's only 20 minutes because there haven't been very many. So we'll have some good questions to think about for how to change that. We hope to see you there.
Okay, Dawn, I have to stop sharing and reshare since we were using a video. So here we go again. There you go.
Yep, you can go ahead to the next slide. So on the PhoneVite, I just wanted to mention I feel like you might still be a little skeptical. So we wanted you to hear what it sounds like. It's crystal clear. It actually sounds like, in fact, we've had many people report that they started talking back to it. We've used it for many years in our branch, and we've had probably a total of 3 people who asked not to receive robocalls. Most often people said, thank you. I really appreciated that reminder. And I almost was going to forget to come, but now I'm going to come. So I advise you to try it and use it, and just use it judiciously. Okay, what's another brave new world thing you can do? Well, you can go to print mailings, good old print mailings. You know, you wonder, like, why isn't that in the tried and true section? Well, print isn't dead. It's just that it's so different. It almost is like it's new again because it just hasn't been used enough. It's attention getting because it's kind of unexpected. So we recommend that you think about using postcards, good old fashioned postcards. It's very delightful to get something in the mail besides an ad for a life scan or a supermarket flyer with short ribs on sale. It's nice to get something else. These are very attention getting. Postcards can be very creative. They're very affordable. They force you to write a very concise, short message, hard for some of us. And there's opportunities for members to help you if you're going to do a postcard campaign. Certainly they can address and stamp, remember those activities we used to do. Also flyers, the box on the right there, think about making flyers. They are the best way to publicize to the public. Postcards are best for publicizing to your members, but flyers are best for publicizing to the public. So they allow you to expand your reach to a lot of very unique locations, even to an audience that would normally be offline or just to the casual public. So think of all the places you can put a flyer, not just Safeway, not just the library, but, tennis courts, daycare centers, gyms, and bus stops, all sorts of things. You can share them with other organizations, and they're very affordable. And again, there's opportunities for members to help with that, with flyers. And you know what that means. They got to go post them for you. So what we actually have in our branch is a list of flyer locations. And they're every location in our town and in the surrounding area where we could stick a flyer. So, and we assign them to people who live in that area. So we give them their 40 flyers and they know exactly where to put them because we've created a list. It's very, very helpful. So I encourage you to think about doing that. Next slide, please. So to do the print mailings, we recommend going and using a company called Vistaprint. And Vistaprint is a very, very easy to use online service. They're very affordable. You can customize your postcard or your flyer very easily with logos and colors. I think in the interest of time, Sandy and I were going to demo a little bit about it, but I think we're going to skip that, Sandy, because we're getting a little low on time. You can very easily, you click on a button to create a postcard and it tells you exactly what to fill in. They're very affordable. You can $27 for 100 postcards plus stamps, which are now 40 cents each in case you haven't noticed. So it's still $67 to reach 100 members, which is pretty good bang for the buck because they have a very high attention grabbing value. Flyers are quite inexpensive as well, $43 for 50. And they'll even mail them for you if you want to pay the extra fee for that. Vistaprint has a lot of attention Kmart shopper sales. So I'm telling you, if a leaf falls to the ground or if a sun sets, Vistaprint will send you a discount coupon for it. So you can always get a cheaper price. It's very easy. If you go look at their vistaprint.com website, you'll see lots of ways to very easily create these materials for yourself. Slide, please. Here's a couple of examples of beautiful ones that Sandy, of course, created. And you can see how eye-catching they are and how nice it would be to get something like this in the mail. Very engaging. Slide, please. So a little bit more about Vistaprint. One other feature that they offer is design services. So if you're artistically challenged, such as the fine artistic example on the right, they do offer design services. You probably really don't need them because they have so many ready-made templates. And there's even a little button that you can click as you're starting to create your postcard that says start design, and it will give you some ideas because it sees where you're headed and it will help you create your postcard. So they do offer paid design services if you want, for starting as low as $10. And they can add a lot of other things if you don't feel confident about doing it yourself. But most of these things here, such as adding your logo, you can do by yourself. So even I could do this. So this is really great. So if you have done anything with print mailings, if you created a postcard or a flyer or a banner or signs to stick outside the rooms where you're having events, give yourself some points. You can give yourself one for a postcard and one for a flyer and one for a banner and one for a sign because we are generous. Slide, please, Sandy. So another thing to think about on your printed materials is that you might want to think about adding a QR code now. So that's that goofy looking square that you see with the strange looking marks on it. So the QR code is it's a code that's a digital code that stores information that someone can see if they scan it with their phone. So it's perfect for a flyer that's hanging outside of the gym. Someone sees a flyer for an event that you're hosting or a program that you're going to have, then they're like, oh, that sounds cool. But who's going to pull out a sticky note from their wallet and a pencil and write the information down? Not anyone these days, but they will take their phone and scan that QR code. And in that QR code, you can embed whatever information you want about the event, and it will pop up on their phone. It's really quite miraculous. They're very easy to create. You can go to there's all kinds of free online software. Just Google it to generate this code. And you can choose what you want people to see. It might be a flyer that you want them to see. It might be your Facebook page. It might be your website's address, just a little something about this event. And it'll give you a form, and you type the information in the form, and then you just place that image on your material. So it's really helpful for print mailings that may be seen by casual observers who aren't going to be able to write all the information down. Slide, please. So another thing besides looking at using print mailings and with the QR codes and robocalls and other novel things is think about using other organizations to promote your events. Be shameless. Let them do some of your work. So you should be connecting with other organizations that are like-minded, service and professional groups. And for one thing, offer to be a speaker. They're usually desperate. Service clubs like Rotary, Lions, Kiwanis, they want speakers. Professional groups like teachers unions, women's networking groups, Chamber of Commerce, they all would like a speaker. And you can tell a little bit about your branch and the good work it does, and mention, guess what? We're going to have this fundraising dinner on Saturday. So, it kind of gives you a way to pitch your event a little bit. And they're usually very open to having you do that. So you should be doing that. You can also request ad space in their newsletter, even if you have to pay for it. As I said before, pay to play. You can request to be on their calendar. So join those other associations and attend their networking events and make yourself known and get yourself on their calendars and their mailing lists. Some organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, if you're a member, they'll give you special status and allow you to use their mailing lists to send emails, or maybe allow you to hang a banner at the Chamber of Commerce building about your event. And of course, you'll make that banner on Vistaprint very easily and inexpensively. Slide, please. So another way, kind of along the same lines of, using other organizations and leveraging them to promote your events, don't forget your own members. They are your greatest ambassadors. So mine your members. So the first thing to find out is, what other groups do your members belong to? And you could conduct a survey, or you could just ask on your membership application. Say, what groups do you belong to? As soon as you find out what other groups they belong to, you ask them to be your publicity ambassador at that group. Ask them to pitch your event at one of their group meetings. Ask them if they'll post a flyer at your group's meeting area. Ask them if they can be a speaker about your event at their group. So use your members and use their networks. If you've done that, give yourself a point. And if you've spoken at any other organization or pitched your event in any other organization, give yourself a point. Slide, please. Another little thought of way to make sure people hear, your members particularly hear about your events that are coming up, your programs and so on, so they can't say, I didn't know about that, is to leverage your interest groups a little bit. Now, you may call them special interest groups, you may call them sections, tomatoes, whatever. They're the same. They are a group of members that are sort of sneaking around in the background playing, and you want to be able to communicate information about what's going on in the branch very directly with them. So our recommendation is that you have the chairs of those groups be responsible for helping to keep the members informed of the branch events. So you should have an annual meeting with your chairs and of your interest groups, and share your expectation that they will help bring the news to their groups about what's going on in the branch, what's coming up, how they can help, and so on. So one way that we do this is to distribute a little monthly update for the chairs to share at their section meeting. So when their section meeting opens, the first thing they do is read and share this little update that's very short and sweet, and we sort of require them to read it. The update has 3 bullets. It's going to have something to celebrate, something that's upcoming, and something that's needed. So let me give you in the next slide, we'll show an example of this. Ours is called the AAUW Branch Buzz, and it has 3 bullets. Something that we celebrated, that we were mentioned twice in the last newspaper. Something that's coming up, we're having a fundraiser in May, blah, blah, blah. And something that we need. We need 3 people to score students' essays for Tech Trek. So we ask the chairs to read these to the group. We do not send these as emails to all the members because they will probably do, you know what, fill in the blanks, delete it. So when we have our chairs read this each time, each month, more and more people become informed about what's going on so they can be involved. This has been really well received, and I think there's quite a few branches that we've been sharing this with that have been really taking advantage of this idea. Next slide, please. A couple other things you might not have thought of. Another way to inform the community and your members about what's going on is Meetup. So you might want to think about investigating Meetup. Again, it's an online tool, and it allows users to organize their get-togethers with others who have similar interests. So there's Meetup groups for Mahjong and Meetup groups for pickleball. So why not Meetup groups for AAUW? So you set up your branch as a group and you tag it with descriptive words so that other people who are interested in the things that you do can find you. And they can then join up with the event or the program that you're promoting. They will know about it because they saw you on Meetup. The events, you can actually create events in Meetup. It's $20 a month, but if you use it regularly, it could be well worth it because you can use it for recurring events. That's what it's really good for. If you have monthly programs or monthly interest group meetings and so on, you can, it's worth the $20 a month to have this available to them. So it's quite easy to join this and to find an organization that matches your interests. Let's see, slide please. Another sort of local group, email type group, online group that you might consider joining is what's called Nextdoor. So Nextdoor is a way to sort of use the power of all of your members' neighborhoods and use that power to spread information about what your branch is doing. So Nextdoor, unlike Meetup, Nextdoor is very geographically based. Meetup is more interest-based. Like, I want to play Mahjong, I'm going to look to find a place that plays Mahjong. Or I'm interested in Title IX or women's rights or some kind of political advocacy. I'm going to look for a group that does that, and then they'll find you. With Nextdoor, it's more geographically based, so it's very hyper-local. So someone will start a Nextdoor account, and then they'll be able to invite up to 100 or 200 houses in their geographical area to join Nextdoor. And it's a hub for all kinds of interaction, chit chat, notifications, community news, events. In my case, in the mountains where Sandy and I live, it will also tell you about loose cows, missing iguanas, etc. But you can use it to promote your AAUW events. So you can do that by identifying your branch members who are in Nextdoor neighborhoods, who use Nextdoor, and ask them to list AAUW events. There's no charge. And then everyone in their neighborhood will see it. And then it will spread as through, as other members see it, they will spread it throughout their neighborhoods. So it's a good tool to use. It's free. Why not? Next slide, please. You can use Nextdoor to create events. This just sort of shows you that's quite simple and easy to create an event. And then anyone who's in that neighborhood sees that event, and they can also spread it out to other neighborhoods. So if you're in a sort of a small regional area, you might even be able to set up a neighborhood where your branch itself is a neighborhood. Depends on the size of your community. But you can certainly use people who are in next door neighborhoods to tell everybody else in their neighborhood about things that you're doing. So they'll come. Next slide, please. If you've used either Meetup or Nextdoor, you know what to do. Okay, one of our last ones here, and again, I apologize, we were going to do a demo on this, but I talked too much or there's too much information, so we're out of time. But our Evite, Evite is a very powerful tool. It's an invitation online creative way to create invitations. And it's way more than just a party invitation like it used to be. They offer all kinds of great templates that you can use to customize the invitation to your event, messages, photos, logos, colors, all of that's very easy to do. You can import the email addresses and you can have separate groups. Maybe you just want to send an invitation to certain branch members, or you want to send it to outside organizations, to the public, like to the Chamber of Commerce or something. You can track all your RSVPs, you can send reminders automatically, and they even have little features like you can set up a poll for what do you think about this? And you can set up a poll for what should you bring? So people can say, this is where people can say, I'll bring the cookies, instead of sending an email to the entire branch telling them that they're bringing cookies. So it has a lot of features that you can use to send out these evites and reach a huge number of people in an engaging manner. And because of the time I'm looking at, we're going to have to skip the Sandy's brilliant demo unless we do it at the end. So Sandy, slide, please. So Sandy's going to take over for a couple minutes. We're probably going to run 5 to 7 minutes late. We apologize, but hopefully you'll stay with us. Sandy's going to talk about what do you do now that we've got all these, so much publicity going out in so many ways. What do we do if people sign up for stuff?
Okay, thanks, Dawn. You took all of my time. That's okay. I think I have 3 minutes. So
I told you we had too much to cover.
I'm going to go fast here. So as Dawn identified, we've now generated some interest, and you might have some questions about how do you manage that interest. And I just want to talk about 3 different levels of how you might manage that with some tools, 2 tools that we use pretty regularly right now, and then one that many of you use and some of you don't. So from a Facebook perspective, you can get a sense of the interest in your event by placing your event on Facebook. So people can say, I intend to go, I think I'm going to go, maybe. And so you get a general sense of what the interest is. There's no commitment. You don't hold anybody accountable to that. But you can link to a registration system or to a website. So I showed you earlier how to link to our California website where we have registration through the next system, which is Zoom. And so Zoom offers some lightweight registration options. And for the most part, it's probably adequate for you unless you're trying to gather money. So you can do simple questions on those. So you can ask people, as when you registered, we ask a question, what are you interested in knowing? So you can create individual questions that you can ask when people register. They're slightly different between meeting and webinar in terms of how you reply to people and how you notify people, but those are very easy to do. If you have a more complicated scenario, you might want to try something like Eventbrite. I'm going to show a couple of slides here if my thing will advance. Oops, not that fast. Okay, so with Zoom, you can register people and you can capture simple information. So I'll show you a little bit up here. When you do the registration process, you can ask custom questions. So that's what I use to create things like, what branch are you from? What is your position? So you can do drop-down lists and that sort of thing. Or you can do short answers. So what are you interested in? And you can let somebody write some text in. And then you can remind people to join. Webinars is much easier because it automatically sends a message a week, a day, and an hour before the event. If you're using meetings, you have to go into the email part of it and say resend the registration to remind people. So it's not automated. You have to do that manually. If you want something more substantial, a tool like Eventbrite, which is what we have used for our big events, our annual meetings, our conventions, and you can have multiple types of tickets, you can have paid tickets, and you can have a really sophisticated interaction on that. But there is a fee associated with it. So if you're doing kind of a limited amount, only one ticket type versus multiple ticket types, they charge you a percentage plus a dollar amount for each ticket that gets created. You can pass that cost on to the person who's registering, so you don't have to lose those dollars. It just gets transferred to the person who is attending. And then one more thing to talk about is where some resources are. So there are two different topics here, or two different links here. One, how to look at some scheduling tools. So how to create a Google Calendar and embed it in your website. We talked about that earlier. How to create a Facebook event, and how to use Eventbook. It's Eventbrite. Oh, there's a typo. Oh my God. Remember how Dawn said we have to read things 3 times? Well, we've read this probably 15 times and we missed it. So it's Eventbrite ticketing. And then there is some information in advanced Zooming that will help you as well. And you have the link, and those are both from our website. So Dawn, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I think we have one fun thing to do now.
Whoop. Let me come back online here. We do. Thank you. And I'm sorry it took so much time. I was afraid we just had so much publicity to send out about this publicity that it was going to take more than our time slot. So before, some of you will have to leave. So before you do, we just want to wrap it up and kind of see what is the state of your publicity in your activity in your branch now, in your typical branch. So we're going to launch a little poll to see basically how muddy did your branch get? How much mud did you throw? So how many of all these publicity tools that we've mentioned today, and I apologize, we didn't get to demo as many. Maybe we'll do another one of these. Did you 0 to 5, 6 to 10, blah, 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 more than 20? Click and vote. You will win absolutely nothing.
So people are voting very quickly. We have 45 out of 59. So we've got 80% of people voting already.
Ooh, very exciting.
And I think the rest of the 19% might have fallen asleep.
Yeah, I was going to say
perhaps just stepped away, but
I think we'll take what we've got.
Okay, so I'm going to end the poll, and
Let's see the results.
Share the results.
Aha! So I think interesting. Okay, so if you had 0 to 5, which was 20% of our audience, you sounds like you've got some solid stuff going on, but you might want to might start thinking a little more into some of the newer tools that are available. You might be using a little bit too much of the old school stuff, so you might want to jazz up your game a little bit. 6 to 10, you're well on your way to international publicity attention. If you're at 11 to 15, you are a publicity machine. And we have 26% who have used somewhere between 11 and 15 of the tools we mentioned. And if you said 15 to 20, okay, That's a heck of a performance. We might not believe you. I thought someone might check more than 20, in which case I was just going to flatly accuse them of lying, because I don't think any of us use more than 20. But kudos to anybody who's using 15 to 20, compliments to anybody using 16 to 15. And 0 to 5, I hope we've given you a couple new things to think about tonight, and that you get a chance to use them. So we'll close that poll, and thanks for playing our little game. I know we have some questions, and I guess if people want to stay on a moment, we can maybe try to address some of those questions.
So Dawn, I think they're not all easy. So we could answer a couple of them, but we might want to, given time, follow up and send out some of these, because I think some of them will take a little bit of research and a little bit more time to gather the information.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just glancing at the questions for the first time now. And yeah, you're right. I think we have a few.
We answered the easy ones. We've answered the 20 easier ones, but these last ones are a little bit more. I guess the one that I think you might be able to answer off the fly is thoughts about print version versus electronic newsletters. I think that's a safe one.
Well, my thought is that I think it's really challenging for the branches now to continue to send out a print version of the newsletter. I think it needs to go electronic. I think that is the world that we're living in. So my personal feeling is that the print version is more trouble than it's worth if you're probably just sending it out to a few people who don't have online sources. So I'm going to have to vote with electronic on that. What do you think, Sandy? Any thoughts?
I agree. I know that some branches have designated an individual to print out a version for folks that they know are not reading or do not have computer access. And I think that works fairly well in those branches.
Yeah, for a couple, but not generally. I wouldn't make it my main method of delivery. And I think this is where some of these other tools come in handy, particularly something like the robocall, because those people who are not online, this is a way to reach out to them, or to use the interest groups that they attend, where the interest group chair can read those bullets I was talking about to let them know what's going on in the branch.
Exactly.
So there's other ways to reach them.
There are 3 questions about PhoneBite that I think we need to probably send out the answers to. I know that the demo talked about what numbers the call sent from, and I know that there is an option for how you do that, and is it going to be viewed as spam? And then the other question is about the do not call registry, and I know that they have do not call registry functionality. I can't answer exactly how that happens, but I do know that they have that functionality, so we can send that out.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not confident about the do not call registry. I believe it's built into their algorithm, but I would not guarantee that. So that's something we'd want to research for sure.
Yeah.
As for what number it comes from, it does come from, you enter what number you would like the callback number to be, or to be the sender's number. That would be the number that appears on the caller ID screen. So you do enter the number you want. I just use my personal number. It's never been a problem for me.
So, and people know who you are. So you could also tell your branch that they're going to be coming from this number.
Right.
There is a question on what the cost is for putting an ad on Facebook. It really depends on what you want to spend. So if you want to spend $5, you can spend $5. If you want to spend $100, you can spend $100. When you go through the ad creation process, you choose characteristics that you want. So you can say the gender, you can say the age range, you can say geographic area, and it will build a little profile for you and tell you how many people that is and how long it thinks it would take you to spend a certain amount of money. So you have complete flexibility around that. And then,
I do see one on how many statistics for how many responses come from press releases.
Yeah.
I don't have any statistics on that. You can certainly generate your own feedback by, you can ask when people come to your events how they heard about it, and see if they heard about it through the newspaper. That would give you some, some analysis of that. I think that's about the only way that I could think of. We do keep a publicity audit at our branch where we check off every event that made it to the newspaper and how many times it made it to the newspaper. And we try to keep an archive of those articles, which is nice. But I think the only thing you can do is ask, how did you hear about this event, and find out how your press releases are working. Luckily, they're free. So, it's no harm, no foul if they're not as successful as you want, but it is good to judge if it's worth the time and energy.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that is the list of questions that are open right now. And just so folks know, we will be posting, I'm going to stop sharing. We will post a recording of this presentation on our website in the next couple of days. So go ahead and look for it there. And if you miss anything, you'll be able to find it easily on our website. It'll be on the home page for a few days. And then at the top of the menu bar, there is an item for webinars. And if you look under 2021 to 2022 webinars, you'll see it listed there, and you can pull it up easily. And thank you, Dawn, for all the work that you did on this.
Thank you, Sandy, for all the work you did on this, and my apologies we didn't do your demos.
That's
I guess
okay.
another time.
All right. Good night, everybody.
And we practiced them too. Thank you for coming, everyone.